Hello and welcome everyone to PAX Unplugged 2019 here. And I am here with Alex Huilman from it's Hunter's Books.
Hunter's Entertainment.
Hunter's Entertainment.
We used to be Hunter's Books, so
Yes.
it's understandable.
Yeah. The tag is still there sometimes. So, Hunter's Entertainment, and you guys are very RPG focused. You make all different kinds of RPG type things. You've worked with Dungeons and Dragons, you've Wizards of the Coast, and that. And you've also recently had a really cool announcement for World of Darkness.
Correct, yeah, we just dropped that here this weekend at PAX, so.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that and a few other things in our traditional Jenga interview style. So, for a reminder for everyone out there, we have our red blocks here, which are about the properties themselves, the games, the things like that. Then we have the blue ones, which are about the industry. And finally, the green ones, which are the random, whatever I feel like asking ones. So, we'll go ahead and have you pull the first one.
Okay, well, let's try this guy here. Go ahead and do a red block and kick it off right.
Alrighty, let's talk about your announcement this morning. You announced the Werewolf, pretty much the Werewolf section of like the World of Darkness.
Yes, so basically there was the 5th edition Vampire the Masquerade that came out here, and we are going to be taking Werewolf the Apocalypse into the 5th edition and bringing that up to speed as well. So we're very excited, obviously, to be a part of the World of Darkness now at this point. I myself have been a fan most of my life, honestly. So I'm 33 and I got into gaming fairly young, and I've basically played the World of Darkness since its inception in the 90s. Followed it all the way through up until its initial conclusion when they switched over to the new World of Darkness, and then got to see it finally come back. So, and now having a chance to actually jump in there is pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like getting to work on something that you've been following for that long must be a really cool experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're generally thrilled to be doing it.
That's awesome. All right, let's see. I'll go for. You're gonna go. Alrighty. Another red one. So, what are some of the big challenges with bringing like the this world like up into the new edition? Like, you know, working with the old lore and bringing it into the new rule set and things like that.
So obviously the biggest challenge is going to be deciding where things are going to end up going with the actual story. So obviously when everything kind of dropped off there, we left the world basically kind of in just around the turn of the century or turn of the millennium time period, and we've moved forward as a society quite a long ways. So we, and especially for Werewolf, like with everything we've got going on in the world right now, there's a lot of things that feed directly into Werewolf's core themes. So it's deciding exactly how we want to broach all of those topics, obviously. I'd say that's going to be the biggest hurdle for us, because mechanics and things like that, that's going to come fairly naturally. A large chunk of it being 5th edition is kind of already set out there for us. So, and it's also, I think, the thing we're most excited about, too, is being able to kind of dig into that lore, because that's the big part of the World of Darkness, is it's meta-plot heavy.
Exactly. It's got some really cool social commentary and just in general commentary. So
absolutely,
it's one of the cool things about the system.
Yep.
Alrighty, your pull.
Let's try. What we got here? Keep sticking with. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not that guy. Maybe not that guy. Maybe we will come to an edge then. Let's try that guy. Cool. Jump over to a new type here.
Alrighty. So, a question about the industry. So, how did you get started in the RPG industry?
Actually getting into the industry itself, my boss Ivan loves to tell this story as well. I was actually one of the first big super fans of Hunter's Entertainment. Like I just fell in love with their 1st edition of Outbreak, and it was to the point where they would log into their forums when they still had them up and check to see any questions, and every time they come in, it was just, I had replied to every single thread that was there. It was just me as the newest post.
Yep.
And so one year after Gen Con, they just kind of reached out to me, and they're like, you've been doing this already. Do you want to do it on a more official capacity? You can start overseeing our social media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And from there, that just kind of kept growing. So I initially got offered some editing work on a couple of the projects we were working on. And then from there, I got offered to go ahead and start developing alongside Chris and Ivan. And so for second edition Outbreak, that was the first stuff that I was really heavily involved in. That's where I got the first credit as a developer in the books there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just kind of kept progressing. And now that we are growing as a company, I've taken over the role of project manager since we've got a lot of things going on at this point, and it's not just the one property anymore.
Yeah, you guys have got a lot of really cool stuff coming out.
And it's been fun watching it grow like that and getting the opportunity to come along with them as the business grows from just being the one property into a full-fledged gaming company.
Yeah, and like working with things that you've always wanted to work with.
Exactly.
I mean, like, I guess that's how you got into the company in the first place, and then like, it just continues to go.
Yeah, it's, for people out there, it's good to be passionate about things you love. Don't ever be afraid of that. It's not a guarantee you're going to get to just jump into a very niche industry, but it's not going to hurt you either.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Alrighty, I'm going to go for, oh, nope, not you. You seem a little bit dangerous. Okay,
all right.
Let's go with you. All right, cool. So, that's how you got into the Hunter's Entertainment.
Correct.
How about how you got into like just RPGs in general, like, all that?
So that, I think I am actually probably a fairly unique individual in this regard, which is why I'm a very big advocate for getting kids into gaming. I actually started role-playing when I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
I actually started with Palladium First Edition, and which is a fairly crunchy system to run with for your first time jumping in at 5 years old.
Yeah.
But I have an interesting family dynamic where my next brother, closest to me in age, is actually 10 years older than me. So when I was 5, he's 15 in high school and playing with his friends all the time. And they constantly used my room because I actually, for whatever reason, I had one of the bigger rooms in the house growing up.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to use that, and I just got sick of it. And I was like, if you're going to use my room, you're going to let me play. And one of his friends was like, you're a dwarf gladiator, sit down.
Have fun, let's go.
So yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for essentially all my life that I actually have memory of.
I've been growing up with that kind of RPG stuff. Like, no wonder you're really interested in it and want to keep going. And
Absolutely.
it sounds like a lot of fun.
Let's see what you come up with. Grab, yeah, I think it's that guy.
There we go.
Just barely, I think, but we got him.
Alrighty. What are your hobbies outside of RPGs and the like?
So I'm very big on watching like documentaries and stuff. That's my main form of media consumption. I also do actually quite enjoy watching a lot of like the RPG web shows and things like that. And then beyond that, I'm a video gamer, like many of us in the industry are. So I think it would be just, mostly the standard stuff. I do like to go on trips with my wife and things like that. We like to travel around the country and see different places, so lots of vacations and pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's see. What about you
getting dangerous down on the bottom there.
Shake this base a little bit. Alrighty. So, to piggyback a little bit off of that, what's the coolest trip you've ever been on?
To be perfectly honest, it was after I started working at Hunters and getting to go out and visit my boss Ivan in LA.
Yeah.
Because just with his background, like there were so many interesting places and that you wouldn't normally do as like a tourist, like going to like Skybound Entertainment and hanging out and talking to some folks. The Geek and Sundry and Nerdist Studios and
all
things
those
like that,
stuff,
meeting various internet celebrities and legitimate celebrities. So it was just kind of like a culture shock type situation. I think that would probably still sticks out as me as one of the coolest trips that I've gotten to do so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, getting to go to all those studios, that would be really amazing.
Yeah, it's breaking down a wall that you never thought you were going to break down, really.
Exactly.
All right, so let's see about this guy. Ooh, I almost pulled a second with him.
Alrighty. So why don't you tell me about Altered Carbon? on that
Altered
RPG?
Carbon.
Because that's coming out soon, right?
Yes, so that is going to be hitting Kickstarter very early in the kickoff of 2020.
Okay.
So there will be a lot of details, obviously, coming up on it fairly soon here.
Yeah.
But basically, we are doing a completely unique system for the game. So people get a little taste of that when we do the Kickstarter. We'll have some materials available for them to get a pre-look at, so they know what they're getting into. And yeah, the nice part about it is that we do have the access to the full-fledged license, so we can kind of combine a little bit of things from the TV series on Netflix. We can pull a little bit from the actual novels. So we get this nice balance of content for the different types of fans of Altered Carbon, because you've got a lot of the newer fans who really they're only familiar with the series. You've got the old school fans who know the books really well, and you do have the cross fans that kind of bridge that gap in between, like both forms of the media. Because there are differences, obviously, but we'll be concentrating on a little bit of both, so you can expect to see some interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, awesome. All right, I'm gonna go for the easy one.
All right.
Do another red one. All right. Do you have like a favorite detail or something that you're like really like that it just hit you that like this mechanic works so well with this other thing within a game or within one of these games that like you're like that's what I love. That's one of the things that is like perfect.
That one's a tricky one too. So I think probably the one that I've really been enjoying a lot, and this goes back to our flagship game of Outbreak, and we've done this since first edition, we've just articulated it better in second edition, is the fact that we do a degree of success and failure system.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily unique to Outbreak or anything like that, but having that granularity built into the whole mechanic system, it gives a lot more just oomph, essentially, to when you're playing through, and especially on the failure side, because when you get these degrees of failure, the things that players come up with to be able to explain that off and be like, okay, I've got these 5 degrees that I have to account for, I'm going to have. And the brilliant part is that giving that narrative control over in that type of system, players will mess themselves up worse than you ever would as a GM, because you would feel bad about it. You'd feel like you were picking on them, so you just let them go to town, and they make it terrible for themselves.
It's just like, all right, you said it, not me. All right.
So yeah, I really like those granularity style mechanics. Those are really fun to play with.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Okay.
Let's see. We'll grab. Let's maybe get a little risky if we can.
Oh, that one seems pretty. We got balanced by 1 block. All right. Cool. So about the industry. How's your experience been, like going to like the different cons, like, and especially like on you've seen it almost from two sides, where you started with being like a fan of these different properties, and then going over to the other side of being a developer.
It's a trip. So still to this day, like one of the things that I'm very much trying to adjust to is the fact that people are starting to know who I am, because at this point I've got about 5 or so years into the industry of actually working here, and doing interviews and going on podcasts and stuff like that. So when people come up and introduce themselves to me and be like, oh my, I'm a fan of yours, it's weird. I think that's probably the thing that actually stands out the most to me in general about convention life right now, and the largest change that I've personally noticed. I mean, when I was still a fan, I was still doing things like running games and all the stuff that I'm doing now, other than hawking stuff in a booth.
Fair enough.
But even with that, like you can do volunteer work for companies and stuff and still have that experience from the fan side. So really that is the stark difference to me, is the change of dynamic in regards to interacting with other folks, which is, it's both fun and sad sometimes. Like it's actually kind of a combination feeling, because unless you luck out and run into the various people that don't recognize you, you don't get that same treatment, and it can be a little weird. But on the same note, like I understand it, because I've come from there, and I've freaked out over some of the people that I've met with Ivan and everything.
Exactly,
so it's just it's part and parcel of how we as humans operate, but it's just a very strange thing because you're just sitting there going, I'm a normal dude. There's nothing special about me. You don't need to freak out.
I was in the same position as you not that long ago.
Like, just a little while ago. It's not even that long.
All right.
So, yeah.
Cool.
It's getting tricky now.
Yeah, let's see. How about you? I'm going to be able to loosen you up. Got it. Cool. Alrighty. If you were to live in any one world from an RPG that you played, which one would you want to live in?
Ooh. I think probably Shadowrun, actually.
Nice.
Even though there's a lot of dystopian factors going on there, the blend of magic and technology and fantasy all together, as a gaming nerd, that is kind of the utopian dream almost. Of, this is everything that I've loved right here, all thrown at me. Now it can be an interesting one to play. Like there's a difference between like what's my favorite one to play and what's my favorite one to live in.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get me wrong, I love you guys, Shadowrun, but I think it would be more fun to live it than in comparison to just playing it.
Yep.
So yeah, I think I'd have to go with them.
Awesome.
Let's see. No, that's not really.
All right. So, how do you all decide like how to or which properties you want to like pursue and like create like this new system for this new RPG book for and all that kind of stuff?
So I imagine this probably varies from company to company, probably. But for us at Hunters, one of the things that we have always been very passionate about is that we will only make content that we personally love. So especially like when you're talking about, obviously when you're doing your own custom content, like we've got Outbreak and Kids on Bikes out there, those aren't existing IP. You kind of just dive into, all right, we really like this theme, we really like this concept, this is what we want out of a game, and we don't see it elsewhere in the industry. So like when Outbreak first came out, the only other zombie game was All Flesh Must Be Eaten. And it had already been discontinued by the point that we dropped, so there was a lot of content there for it, but there wasn't really new stuff coming out, other than fan-created material, and then it didn't go into it the way that we wanted to go into it. We wanted to test our zombie survival plan. We wanted to really throw that to the test against any type of zombie from any type of fiction. And that wasn't exactly what All Flesh was. It was the more power fantasy style of D&D-esque type dealing with zombies. So we made that grittier game because that was what we wanted. And then with Kids on Bikes, it wasn't one that we in-house made ourselves. We picked that up from John Gilmore and Doug Lewandowski. And that was because they showed it to us at a con, and we loved it immediately. And we were passionate about it. We were like, this is a game we want to play. This is a game we want to see. And then the same for approaching IPs, because now that we are finally into that realm where we've got Altered Carbon, we've now picked up World of Darkness, people are aware of us a little bit more now, so we have been offered additional IPs. We have rejected some of those IPs because it just wasn't things that we were passionate about, and we didn't think we could provide the proper product as a result. You're not going to get a great game if you don't really care about the source material. So yeah, we're very cognitive of that and make sure that what we're processing is stuff that we want specifically.
That's awesome. I mean, like you got to be passionate about something for it to like work the way that you want it to work. So
exactly. Otherwise, it's essentially you're just going in for a cash grab. And in fairness, this isn't really the industry for that. Like we're a niche industry. You're not going to make loads of money. So going that route is just silly.
Alrighty. So let's see. What can I do? Nope, not you. Let's see. You? No, you're not loose at all. Ooh, we're getting to the point where it's getting tight.
Oh yeah.
I can get you. Alrighty. Got it. Cool. So, this industry, so the RPG industry in general, like it's still very analog.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on like some of the new, more digitized versions and things like that, and like digital tools that have been coming into the RPG industry?
I personally have mixed feelings about it. From a professional standpoint, I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It is breaking down walls because the biggest barrier for the vast majority of people has always been geography.
Yeah.
I love this game. None of my friends happen to want to play this game. Now I have no one to play with. But if they could just get online and be able to easily connect up and have the tools provided to them to translate that tabletop experience to an online realm, there's a bunch of other players out there in that same boat that would be happy to go ahead and get a game going with them. So it shatters all of those walls. The downside for me is that I'm still I do both tabletop and video gaming, so I don't necessarily feel the need to have digitization going on with my analog games.
Yeah.
But like I said, from a business standpoint, I absolutely love it. I just don't tend to utilize them a ton myself. The one that I've gone in the most with would be Roll20.
Yeah.
And that's just because we have some of our indie fans. We occasionally go ahead and run games and stuff with them to just give them that opportunity to be able to play. Because again, we're growing now, but we started off as a smaller company, so when you're a smaller company, that geography issue becomes a bigger and bigger problem because you've got less and less fans initially starting, so that's starting to clear up for us though now a lot, which is very, very nice. So.
Awesome.
All right, let's see what we can get here.
Ooh, that's an easy one.
All
right.
Yeah, that slid right on out. Now, can we get it on there without killing anything?
Perfect. Cool. So, a question that we'd love to ask everyone: what's your favorite donut?
Ooh.
It's always the one that stumps people. We can ask
so
everything
many
that
good
we want.
Ones. I'm gonna have to go with you do the plain cake donut with chocolate icing. It's a very basic one, but you can't beat it.
I mean, it doesn't have to be fancy to be delicious.
Exactly.
I mean, you've got Krispy Kremes, which are just like literally just yeast donuts with glaze.
Yep.
And yet they're still some of the most popular donuts out there. So, you know.
Get in my mouth.
Yep, exactly. Alrighty, let's see.
Good luck on this.
Yeah. Okay.
Aha.
That was that one. Okay. So, Altered Carbon. Is there anything that you have, like, in particular, really wanted to play through in that game? That, like, a scenario that you wanted to see, that, like, knowing the background and the media and that kind of stuff that you wanted to be in?
I mean, the setting itself, it's kind of got that neo-noir detective mystery kind of vibe. And that genre in and of itself, I don't think gets enough representation currently in the industry. And which means I think there's a lot of untapped potential there, is essentially what I'm trying to say. Now, I can definitely say that we've already got some good plans in place, and one of the things that we're definitely throwing out there is a scenario that I desperately wanted to see.
Okay.
So you'll see it in the book.
Okay. It'll be in the book. Definitely keep your eyes out for that. Yeah. Can't spoil too much.
Since it's coming specifically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And Kickstarter coming early
2020.
Right.
All right. Let's see what we can do. Are you? No. Not quite. I feel a little nervous about that one. There he is. There he is.
Alrighty.
All right.
So this morning you've been peppered, and they were talking to me about it earlier, that the response on social media to the new announcement has been huge.
Yes. Yes.
So what are do you have like some responses of, like, people saying, oh, I want this to happen or that to happen in the game, that you're just like, You don't have to tell me which ones, but like that.
Surprisingly, not many people have been putting out suggestions just yet.
Okay.
So the response we've generally been getting, and it's kind of the responses we expected. So folks who are aware of us, know our other products, a lot of them are actually just straight out excited. So they're like, awesome, and it's the new version of Werewolf. We're just really excited about that because we've been waiting forever. The other side of it is, we're not quite sure who you are. Please do not mess up this thing that we have loved for all of our lives. And we love that actually because there's a very passionate fan base within the World of Darkness, and we do want to let people know and assure them that we got this because we're fans. That we love the opportunity to be doing this. So hopefully that can alleviate some concerns for the folks who aren't fully aware of us. You know that it is fans coming into this, so.
Yeah, we got someone who's been playing that system for a while, so.
Very, very much so. And Ivan, one of the things he's been talking about, the first game he ever GM'd was Werewolf. So.
Well, there you go. Long history in this one. All right, that's good. That's always a good thing to hear.
Yes.
Alrighty. Oh. No, you don't want to go at all.
It's starting to get pretty tight.
Let's see now. We're gonna be nope. Gotcha. Alrighty. So, how has it been just working with, especially now that White Wolf has been is part of Paradox, and like working with someone that is like. White Wolf is known for RPGs. Paradox is known for strategy, like large strategy games, and now you're getting to work with them on like this kind of other project. Has that been a good experience all in all?
Yeah, absolutely. So Paradox has been fantastic so far, and very supportive. So basically, like the general side of the industry is we obviously went ahead and kicked out what we thought we would like to do with it, and so they've obviously liked the direction we were going to go. And then, they've been very generous with offering up resources and making sure that we're going to be very comfortable moving forward to handle this. So
awesome, cool. All right. Well, I think that we're coming to a close now, but
we managed to keep the tower up.
Yeah. Well, now this is the fun part. You get the last pull, and you get to knock over the tower because the interview does not end until the tower falls.
Gotcha. Well, then let's go brazen here.
Alrighty, awesome. It fell down, and we're going to end with an industry question then, based on the pull. So let's see. What is the thing that you are most excited about that you've been seeing in just as a general trend in the RPG industry?
To be fair, it's one of the items that we actually kind of broached a little bit before. It's the digitization. Even though I do have those mixed feelings about it, from an industry perspective, I think that is the best thing for the industry right now. Because it is going to finally bring a lot of gamers together and break down those walls of geography, as I was saying. So that is probably the thing I'm most excited about, and the fact that it is actually really starting to kind of kick off and catch on a lot more. So I've noticed a lot more people are very aware of things like Roll20 and Tabletop Forge and things like that. So it's getting out there and it's permeating into the community and it's being adopted, and I think that's going to be a great thing.
Awesome. Alrighty. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us, and Alex, thank you so much for being here
for having me.
And part of the Jenga interviews. Definitely keep your eye out on Hunter's Entertainment. There's going to be some really cool stuff coming out. The Kickstarters are coming out early, or the Kickstarter for Altered Carbon is coming in early 2020. So keep your eye out for that, especially if you're interested in that type of thing. And stay tuned here on Dragon's Demize for more cool content from PAX Unplugged.